you know, it's a really high bar, and so it's like you start to maybe second guess what you're writing, or you have less of a, almost less freedom. If someone thinks you're like some sort of gift to guitar, like you kind of have to always be on that level, or else you feel like you're not living up to that. So as awesome as it is, it can be a bit daunting. So I try not to trip, you know, but it can get kind of overwhelming. Well, metal had more of an influence. It's what I've been listening to longer, and a lot of the advanced technique has more of a home in metal. So that's a huge element of my playing, but currently jazz is like where I'm actually borrowing from the most as far as harmony and stuff like that, just because it's a genre of music that actually incorporates really complex and rich harmony. And I really like using that in metal, and that's kind of like what our sound is. So. I see a lot of 8-string players. 7 strings have been around for a while. The 8-string thing is relatively newer. For some reason, there are kids who are jumping from 6 to 8, which is pretty ambitious. I kind of did the logical transition from 6 to 7 and then to 8. But yeah, I think there's enough metal bands actually like legitimizing, you know, 8-string guitars where it's actually become a pretty popular thing. If you're a lazy and uninspired guitar player, it doesn't matter how many strings you have on your guitar. But I get that the 8-string would, it's almost like people focus just on the lower register, which, I mean, I get it, you know. But the same thing was said about 7-string guitars. Korn kind of made them popular in the mainstream, and people were emulating their style of playing, which is relatively simple, and so the whole 7-string guitar thing got lumped into being simple. And Meshuggah is kind of doing the same thing with 8 strings. Like, they're one of my favorite bands, but they're almost minimalist when it comes to guitar playing at this point. And that can be misinterpreted to be, like, you know, uninspired or whatever terms people want to throw at that. But I think it's actually really awesome. So, unfortunately, some people might take the obvious approach from seeing Meshuggah and kind of wanting to go straight for the low end, like, percussive chugging stuff, as opposed to a more melodic, you know, full range approach to the guitar. Musicality is like it's kind of it's like a disposition, or like it's a taste. It's like a choice in, how do I put this? I don't consciously choose musicality when I'm writing a specific song. I would hope that when I'm writing, I'm being musical, and it's just an inherent quality of my playing. Obviously, I'm doing a lot of, like, you know, flashy stuff, so it's not, you know, always perceived as musical, but with technique and, you know, advanced technique and stuff like that, I've always incorporated into music, like, instantly. So all of my songs, it's not like a moment where I just start sweeping and then that's like an isolated part of the song and I just start playing normal guitar. It's like, it's pretty intrinsically like woven into the music. So I never try to make the distinction. I just try to stay musical. It's actually like kind of weird because Javier, our guitar player, he was like, oh man, there's this metal band like nearby and they like need a guitar player. I'm thinking of trying out for them. I was like, what do they sound like? And it turns out it was Periphery. And I was blown away for a few reasons. I mean, I was aware that it was like one guy doing like the production himself, and it sounded like, you know, amazing recording. And also he was from Bethesda, which was like this sort of like suburb of Maryland that just nothing awesome comes out of, you know. So I was like, how does this guy exist and how did I not know about him? And I ended up going to, I guess, just meet up with them. Javier actually like didn't make the cut, which is actually really funny too. But that's how I met Misha, and he had all these cool guitars, and like the other weird thing is that when I heard his music, I felt some sort of like eerie, like it's like I felt like the notes he was choosing were like exactly what I would have thought to put there, like this weird sort of like musical kinship. So anyway, I ended up meeting him because of that, and I think he might have known about my band Reflex at the time, but like it was instantly like a really cool like relationship. He knows a lot about, you know, certain things that I didn't know about, and we just kind of stayed friends, and then Periphery started developing even further, and then I started the Animals as Leaders thing, and we ended up working together on that, which is like really cool because I had known him for quite a few years, but working with him on an actual project was just something that it's like, hey, it'd be really cool if, but it actually never happened. And then when it did happen, it turned out to be like the best thing ever. The bass player thing, the reason we are a three-piece is kind of a result of the way we record it, where there was no actual bass. There is something playing the role of bass, but we took clean guitar and pitched it down an octave, which achieves like a really sort of subharmonic oriented, like really big low end. And it was kind of a production technique that Misha was using at the time. So when we got the band actually going, I knew I wanted Javier to play, and I knew, you know, obviously I wanted a live drummer, and we got Naveen to play. The bass player thing was just like, well, we're going to be running a lot of the synth, a lot of the electronic drum parts. We're going to be playing to a click, and thinking towards the future, we knew we wanted to kind of be unconventional with bass as well. We wanted to use more synths to do really a lot of cool low-end like bass like sound design, things that a bass guitar couldn't really do. Also, having 8 strings kind of makes the bass situation a bit gray. So I'm really into the trio. Everyone in the band is definitely like someone I want to be working with. There's I don't know if there's much talk of getting an actual electric bass player. There's this guy, Evan Brewer, who I was in a band with before, and he's an amazing bass player, and he showed me a lot of the thumping stuff that I do now. So like he'd be like, you know, an obvious choice. And then there's also other guys like this guy Hadrian Farad. He's from France, and he plays for he's played for John McLaughlin and Prince, and he's just like Jaco Pastorius on speed, and I mean, he blows my mind. So there's obviously like, you know, guys like that who, I don't even know if that'd be Animals as Leaders as much as just like a chance to work with someone who's like a monster player on their own. So right now I'm just playing live with them, just because the album was written before there were actual band members. But the idea is to actually have the next album be written like as a band, so everyone's contributing. Which will be cool. They're so different. I mean, in the studio, especially now with software, and you have the ability to really achieve things almost beyond yourself. Then on stage, it's literally a matter of what you can actually do. Like the experience of recording can be really grueling, can be really inspiring. When you're on stage, you're just kind of in like game mode, and you get to actually experience the music in real time and then there's people there actually listening to, and hopefully it's like a reciprocal sort of exchange. So, which do I prefer? They're so different. I really love performing, but you have to write to perform, and so that's where the studio comes into play, you know? Reflex, actually, a lot of the material isn't that far removed from Animals as Leaders. At least in my head, there's actually songs that would have been Reflex songs that are now Animals as Leaders songs. So stylistically it'd be kind of close, but there was a bit more of a confined idea of what Reflex was supposed to be. Like we were kind of catering to some pretty genre-specific rules with like metalcore and stuff like that. And Animals as Leaders is completely like whatever we want to do. So if Reflex was still around, I don't know, we probably would have tried to get on all the killer like metalcore tours with like Unearth and Killswitch Engaged or whatever. Well, it's like a tool, you know. Being able to recreate realistic drums and like have your songs actually sound like, you know, fully realized is a huge asset. with the album, we obviously had the drums written, and so we're emulating what was written. But in the future, I think we plan on tracking real drums just because Naveen is actually very much into that. But we'll demo everything, with programmed drums, and I don't know, it's definitely the way we kind of do things. I like Superior Drummer. Just because it's like, it's an amazing like sample player. It's like very realistic, and I mean it's a huge asset for writing music to be able to have something that can recreate like a human feel, a real drummer. I have a MacBook Pro. I have Pro Tools, and I use, I've been traveling a lot, so I don't actually have studio monitors. I've been using a pair of Sennheiser, just like reference headphones. And I have a really crappy interface. It's like a PreSonus, like 2-channel thing. It's all about portability for me right now. I don't have like a killer like home setup, but it's definitely capable. So beyond that, I don't use any like MIDI controllers or anything like that. I do it all in the box. And my Axe effects would be, how I track in the guitars, and Toontrack stuff is how I do drums. I've got some Waves plugins for mixing and synth stuff. Got some Korg synths. I have a pretty minimal setup. Ibanez is like, they're kind of known for having guitars that play fast, high radius necks. Just, that's kind of been the obvious choice, and I've been playing them for a while, and then, now I like officially endorse them, and it's really cool that they have a custom shop that will actually like cater to the artist's needs and like try to produce a guitar that's even better than like the production model stuff. So there are a lot of like luthiers in the world, a lot of cool builders and stuff, but Ibanez, like all my favorite guitar players play Ibanez, and it's like a pretty cool company to be a part of, so that's why I play them. Well, there's a song called Zavago by Kurt Rosenwinkel, and it's like one of my favorite songs of all time. The head is very like catchy, but it's actually complex as well, and I really like that balance. So that'd probably be my favorite. Nothing by Meshuggah. OK Computer. The Next Step by Kurt Rosenwinkel. Is that 3? Like a Joanna Newsom album. Ease, probably. Or do an electronic artist as well. A Rezo album. Maybe the Temjin EP. Trying to cover all my bases for that island, I'd probably choose a Strat. I'm really getting into the single coil pickup sound. I didn't realize that's like a sound I've been chasing for a while. Well, it's hard to answer that question. Jazz is a genre, and beyond that, it's like a cultural movement, and there's just way more significance to why that became, a part of American history. Instrumental music is way more of a broad term. I guess in the context of what I'm doing, I do see some popularity like rising. I know there are kids who are into it and wanting to create music in that direction. But I do know that like people they really connect with the human voice. So instrumental music is challenging oftentimes because it's instrumental. Most of those people are composers who want to create something a bit more complex than your average song. So for all those reasons, I don't see it being immensely popular. It's always existed. In the context of what I'm doing, guitar-driven instrumental music that's closer to something like metal. Who knows? It'd be cool if it did open up a little bit and there were more bands and there's more fans of it. So I don't really know, but I'm currently watching it become more popular, which is cool. Future of Animals as Leaders. We are going to start working on the next album after this tour, I think. Hope to be done with it by the end of the year. And we want to do a headlining tour. maybe with some like visual production, give people little Floyd-esque experience. If we can figure that out, that'd be cool. So that's what's coming up in the immediate future.